Okay, ladies and gentlemen, wherever you are, at any time you are, okay, peace be upon you. Okay, this is our, fifth lecture, fifth session, our fifth meeting, and today's meeting will be about, the fourth part of American literature that is called naturalism. So, again, repeating myself, we are going to divide, American literature into 6 parts, 6 periods, 6 movements, starting with the earliest one, that was the colonialism or the colonial period, and then we next discussed, romanticism, and then realism, and today we discuss naturalism. Naturalism is, as a movement, can be understood in 2 ways, or, it has 2 understandings, as a philosophical, understanding or interpretation, and, as a literary interpretation. Interpretation or explanation or understanding related to literature. As a philosophical movement, it's, simply speaking, it refers to the viewpoint that, laws of nature, okay, operate the universe, and that, nothing exists beyond the natural universe, okay? That our universe is governed, is ruled, is run by nature, and is operate, in nature, that, nature is the only thing or power that operates, that runs our universe, and there is no other powers that go beyond this law, the law of nature or laws of nature. Natural assert, the natural laws are rules, that govern the structure of and behavior of the natural universe, that the universe is a product of these laws. Okay, this is also here important. They say that natural universe, that the universe is a product of the laws of nature, the laws of nature. That is philosophically speaking. Okay, but what we are concerned about is the literary interpretation. So as a literary movement, it was, a movement taking place from the 1880s to 1940s, and detailed realism. It used, detailed realism to suggest that social conditions, heredity, okay, what is inherited, and environment had inescapable force in shaping human character. This movement, depicted, pictured. It was depicted often or pictured as, or known as, a literary movement that seeks to replicate, to repeat, a believable everyday reality, as opposed to such movements as romanticism. Naturalism is also considered to be the outgrowth, okay, of literary realism, sort of an offspring, or that comes out of realism, okay, with of course some differences. Realism, a prominent literary movement in the mid-19th century in France, that is realism. Naturalistic writers, okay, were influenced, this is also important about naturalistic writers, they were influenced by Charles Darwin, a very well-known name in science, and who's famous of his theory of evolution, اللي هو مشهور بنظرية التطور تبع الإنسان. Okay, so naturalistic writers were very much influenced, affected by this theory of, the theory of Charles Darwin. They, the writers of naturalism, believe that one's heredity, okay, what you inherit, اللي هو الموروثات, one's heredity and social environment largely determine one's character. this could be a major theme أو a description of this movement, and it's let's say general objective. Okay, writers of naturalism or naturalistic writers believe that one's heredity, okay, one's what someone or what people inherit from their fathers and forefathers, and from previous generations, and the social environment where people live, what surrounds people environmentally, largely decides one's character. Your character or the person's character, any person's character is decided by the environment, the social environment, and what he or she inherits from his ancestors. Okay, and this is a general introduction about naturalism as a movement, and its two different, or not different, let's say two understandings or interpretations, as a philosophical movement and as a literary movement. And then we come to our topic اللي هو and what we are concerned about اللي هو naturalism in American literature, and particularly in fiction, novels and short stories. American literary naturalism is a literary movement that became popular in late 19th century. Okay, in America, late 19th century in America, and is often associated with literary realism. The term naturalism was initially founded by, it was established by Émile Zola, who was a French writer and a French philosopher, and a very famous figure, and he's a very clear representative of naturalism. Okay, in the late 19th century, the literary movement became popular all over Europe, from England to Russia. So it started by Émile Zola in France, and then moved from France to England to Russia and to all Europe. American writers were particularly influenced by the British, of course, as early settlers, and colonized by Britain. So the American writers were influenced by the British and the French models, and began to adapt the form to reflect American social, economic, and cultural conditions. So they were first influenced by by British and French writers. Then by the time they started to adapt their own, their own style of of naturalism, to have their own, form that reflects, their own social, economic, and cultural conditions. Viewed as a combination of realism and romanticism, critics contend, they they confirm that the American form of naturalism is heavily influenced by the concept of determinism. Determinism is another movement اللي يقال لها الحتمية، اللي هو ايش معناها؟ اللي هي the theory that heredity and environment influence determine human behavior. هذا المقصود في determinism. ايش معناها؟ اوكي، تعريفها، اوكي، اللي هي بسموها الحتمية او القدرية، اللي هي that they believe that man goes according to his or her fate, okay, governed by, okay, controlled by his or her fate, okay. So that theory that heredity and environment, okay, what a person inherits and his or her environment influence and determine his or her or the human's behavior. This is determinism. Okay, although naturalism is often associated with realism, which also seeks to accurately represent human existence, the two movements are differentiated by the fact that naturalism is connected to the doctrine of biological, economic, and social determinism. In their short fiction, اللي هو الناتشراليزم أو naturalistic writers, naturalist writers strive to depict, they fight, they work hard to depict, to picture, okay, to show, okay, life accurately through an exploration of the causal factors that have shaped the character's life, as well as a deterministic approach to the character's thoughts and actions. Therefore, this is important. Therefore, instead of free will, a naturalist depicts a character's actions as determined by environmental forces. Okay, so the naturalistic writers, أو اللي هو naturalistic writers, you know, يعني think that, you know, a person or a human being doesn't have a free will. No, his will is what is determined by, you know, environmental forces. So a naturalist depicts a character's actions. Our actions are, you know what, determined by environment or environmental forces. That's why they are called a naturalist. Next page, again, some pages will be sort of a repetition, so just to know more about the same idea about, you know, the definition and the themes and the characteristics of naturalism. American literary naturalism came to the forefront of popular literature during a time of tremendous cultural and economic upheaval, you know, revolution in the United States. In the late 19th century, you know, United States witnessed, you know, a revolution, an industrialization, in industry, I mean, in urbanizing, you know, يعني اللي هو industrial, the revolution was, you know, in terms of, you know, industrialization, urbanization, mechanization, and also the influx, the floods, the immigration of people from all over the world. Okay, that all of this, you know, resulted in extreme changes in the United States or in the American landscape, or general view of the country. The short fiction of American literary naturalism depicts, important here, okay, this is important. The short fiction of American literary naturalism depicts, shows, pictures what? The experiences of impoverished, poor, okay, and uneducated people living in squalor and struggling to survive in a harsh, indifferent world. Okay, this is what is usually depicted, pictured, or shown in American fiction by, you know, the naturalist or naturalistic writers. Okay, usually they show, depicts, you know, the experiences of impoverished and uneducated people living in, okay, squalor and struggling, these characters struggling to survive in harsh, difficult, okay, indifferent world. Major thematic, again, this is also important, major thematic concerns of the form include the fight for survival. This is also a major theme in naturalistic writing, in naturalistic works, which is what? The fight for survival. Okay, the fight for survival, because they consider people living in harsh conditions, okay, in an indifferent world, in a difficult world to live in. يعني that covers what, includes what, conflicts between man against nature, man against society. That also includes violence, the consequences of sex, and sex as a commodity, يعني as goods, commodity, as something you buy and you sell, something that you sell and buy, زي بضاعة أو سلعة. The waste of individual potential because of the conditioning forces of life, and man's struggle with his animalistic base instincts. برضه this is also part of the thematic concerns of the naturalistic writers, اللي هو man's struggle against his animalistic, okay, against his base instinct, okay, مقاومة والصراع بين الإنسان وبين الإنسان نفسه ويعني رغباته الفطرية الحيوانية اللي موجودة فيه. Okay, as a result, the short stories of this, okay, literary movement are often regarded as depressing. نعم, when stories talk about all of these things in this negative, pessimistic attitude, so you expect the works to be depressing. Okay, يعني راح تقرأ أو تقرأي أكيد أعمال محبطة مثبطة، لأن راح تكون كلها تتكلم عن يعني صعوبات في الحياة وصراع مع الإنسان داخل نفسه وغريزته الحيوانية مع الطبيعة. Okay, so you expect to read depressing types of stories, because slice of life documentations of sad, unfulfilled lives. A handful of significant American authors, this is very important, as examples of good examples or good representatives of this movement, such as Stephen Crane, Theodore Dreiser, and Frank Norris, utilized the form, the form of naturalism, which noticeably declined in popularity by the early 20th century. Okay, but then again it's started to build up popularity. Mixed, okay, اللي هو naturalism in American literature, again as here defining the same movement here as said before, but again this is another definition in different ways, sort of an extension to what is said before. The term naturalism describes, what is it? If you want to define, to describe what is naturalism. طبعا هو بالعربي هم بيسموها الطبعانية، okay, أو الطبيعانية، أو بمعنى هو المذهب الطبيعي كمان. The term naturalism describes a type of literature that attempts to apply scientific principles of objectivity and detachment to its study of human beings. Okay, principles of objectivity. Okay, apply scientific principles of objectivity and detachment to its study of human beings. Okay, and based on facts. Okay, study of human beings based on facts. Okay, unlike not on emotions and sentimentals and feelings. Unlike realism, naturalism is different. There are some similarities, and there are of course differences, and this is something you need to remember, because some of the topic questions will be about discussing differences between our similarities, either differences or similarities between two different movements. So you expect such a question in the topic, in the discussion for topics. Okay, as part of the assignments that you usually have in every course and every semester, as part of the participation of the 10 points participation. So here, unlike realism, okay, opposite realism, naturalistic, sorry, هنا unlike realism focuses on literary technique, like naturalism what? Naturalism implies a philosophical position for naturalistic writers, since human beings are, as you know, in Emile Zola's phrase, شو بيقول human beasts. Consider man or human being as, you know, human beings as a human beasts, as you know, said by, you know, this famous phrase by Emile Zola. Okay, يعني beasts means animals here. Characters can be studied through their, in the point of view of the naturalistic writers, characters can be studied through their relationships to the surroundings, to the يعني nature, to the environment that surrounds the human beings. Other influences other than Emile Zola on American naturalists include Herbert Spencer and Joseph LeConte. Okay, هنا برضه these are all important, you know, names, you know. So as you know, Emile Zola as one of the major, you know, as a major writer that, you know, American naturalistic writers influenced by, they were also Americans or naturalistic writers. American naturalistic writers were also influenced by other, you know, naturalists or writers like Herbert Spencer and Joseph LeConte. So this is also يعني some more on the definition and description of naturalism. Next, again, continuation. Naturalistic writers, okay, believed, okay, that the laws behind the forces that govern human lives might be studied and understood. Naturalistic writers thus, okay, what? Used a version of the scientific method, a type of scientific method, to write their novels. They studied the human beings governed by their instincts and passions, as well as the ways in which the characters' lives, okay, were governed by forces of heredity, what's inherited, and the environment. Although they, naturalistic writers, although they used the techniques, this is here important, although they used the techniques of accumulating details pioneered by, okay, the realists, هنا, this is the important part, the naturalists thus had a specific object in mind when they chose the segment of reality that they wished to convey. Okay? No, sorry, this part is not really that important. No, I'm sorry. Although from although to the end of the paragraph, this is just to note, but it's not an important piece or part of this slide. Okay, next is a very short slide we have here, but this is important, you know. This is important. It talks about in George Becker's famous and much annotated and contested phrase, okay, a phrase, you know, contested phrase, you know, phrase that causes, you know, a conflict or dispute between people, questionable phrase. Naturalism, philosophical framework, can be simply described as, from the point of view of George Becker's. He describes naturalism, in what? Being pessimistic, materialistic determinism. Okay, this is also important. The way it is, you know, described with this phrase by Becker's, being pessimistic, يعني تشاؤمية. Okay, and materialistic, talking about, you know, physical things and real things, what you can see, like determinism. Okay, they're talking about, you know, people are just controlled by, you know, their fates and what they inherit from other people or their ancestors. So in George Becker's point of view, naturalism is described as pessimistic materialistic determinism. Next is again the naturalistic novel usually contains two tensions, okay, two conflicts or two parts of a conflict, two or contradictions, two oppositions. These are two in conjunction comprise both an interpretation of experience and particular aesthetic اللي هو refers to beauty, aesthetic, beautiful reaction of experience. In other words, the two constitute, they form, they make. The two constitute the theme and form of the naturalistic novel. These two contradictions or these two اللي هو tensions. First, the first tension, the first contradiction is that between the subject matter of the naturalistic novel and the concept of man, which emerges, starts, comes out of, emerges from this subject matter. The naturalist populates, he chooses his people, people of the novel, his novel primarily from which type of people, which type of characters, from which class? From the lower middle class or the lower class, representing poor people of lower middle or lower class, social classes. His fictional world is that of the commonplace and unheroic, in which life would seem to be chiefly the dull round of daily existence, as we ourselves usually conceive, see, understand, okay, of our lives. But the naturalist discovers in this world those qualities of man usually associated with the heroic or adventurous, such as acts of violence and passion, which involve sexual adventure or bodily strength, and which culminate comes to its peak, to the top, okay, in desperate moments and violent death. It comes to the peak, to which culminate, then causes or ends up with death. A naturalistic novel is thus an extension of realism. So naturalistic novel is an extension of realism only in the sense, this is important, only in the sense that both modes, both types, both kinds, often deal with the local and contemporary. Okay? This is important, as you know, showing similarities. A naturalistic novel is thus an extension of realism only in the sense of, okay, that what? Both these realism and naturalistic novels or stories, they do what? Often deal with the local and contemporary. They deal with the local place, with the local location, and with the contemporary time, not the past. The naturalist, however, discovers in this material the extraordinary and excessive in human nature. That is the first tension, the first contradiction. Number two, second tension involves the theme, okay? Involves the theme of the naturalistic novel, which is what? The naturalist often describes his characters as though they are conditioned and controlled by environment, heredity, instinct, or chance. Okay, this is important. Second tension also gives the sort of theme concern of the naturalistic writers. So the naturalistic novel, naturalist often describes his characters as what? As though they are conditioned, controlled, okay, by their environment, heredity, instinct, الغريزة, or chance, الحظ, الصدفة. But he also suggests, اللي هو الناتشراليست, اللي هو الناتشراليستيك writer, he also suggests a common a compensating humanistic value in his characters or their fates, which affirms, assures, confirms the significance of the individual and of his life. The tension here, number 2, is that between the naturalist's desire to represent in fiction the new, discomforting truths which he has found in the ideas and life of his late 19th century work, and also his desire to find some meaning in experience which asserts, assures the validity of the human enterprise, the humanity establishment. Next is here important points about, specifically characteristics of naturalism and naturalistic writing. First of all, talk about the characters of the novels or short stories in naturalism or in naturalistic writing. Frequently, but not the characters of this movement or of these writers in naturalism, they are what? Frequently, but not invariably ill-educated or lower class. Not invariably ill-educated or lower class characters whose lives are governed by the forces of heredity, instinct, and passion. يعني هنا طبعا they are not but, okay, so they are people, characters of who represent who are frequently ill-educated, not well-educated, okay, they lack education, they are of lower social classes, who lives and governed by the forces of their heredity. Okay, they live on what they inherit from other people, and they live on instinct, okay, and passion, اللي هو الفيلينجز أو sentimental. Their attempts, okay, at exercising free will or choice are hamstrung by forces beyond their control. Their attempts, the characters of the novels of naturalistic writers, of the naturalists, are what? Their attempts, the characters' attempts, their attempts at experiencing free will, okay, free things to do, اللي هي بمعنى هنا free will يعني الإرادة الحرة, okay, or choice, exercising free will or choice are hamstrung, okay, are hamstrung by forces. يعني hamstrung معنى blocked, stopped, handicapped أو hindered, okay, by forces beyond their control. Okay, by forces, by powers, by things that they can't do anything about, so they just submit. Next, second اللي هو second characteristic اللي هو setting of the novels or short stories of the naturalistic writers is what? Frequently an urban setting, okay. Usually it talks about urban areas, okay. Talk about cities and middle of towns, or where places which are usually crowded with people, well inhabited, as in Norris McTeague, okay, as an example. Okay, when we talk about setting here, we mean by setting what? The time and the place of the story. Okay, يعني where and when the actions of a story take place. And of course, setting also includes, geographical location of the actions. It includes also, the outlooking of the characters, the way they speak, the way they dress, and the way or the manner of speech, that all comes under sitting. So sitting in naturalism frequently an urban setting. Okay. Then اللي هو last اللي هو techniques and plots. Okay. The plots of the stories. Okay. اللي هو يعني what makes the stories اللي هو the arrangement of events and the style, the technique, how the actions are arranged, and what technique is used to put these actions together, or the plot, or the actions that make the plot. Here we have Walcott says, one of the writers, of one of the naturalists, says that naturalistic novel offers a clinical, panoramic slice of life. Okay, this is also true. Yani it's a slice of life. The novel of naturalistic writers gives a large, or let's say a general view, panoramic general view. Okay, a wide, a large picture of the society. It's also a slice of life because it depicts real life as is. Okay, a drama that is often a chronicle of despair. Okay, novels also, they are sort of a chronicle of despair. They are sort of historical books that put the events, the despair of people as part of making the history. Okay, chronicle of despair. Okay, just to say the chronicle means to write history. So chronicle of despair. So these novels as putting the despair of these people in the history through these novels. The novel of Degeneration, Zola's L'Asmore and Norris's Vandover, and The Brute, for example, is also common type. Okay, these are examples. The novel of Degeneration. We have Zola, L'Assommoir, and Norris, Vandover, and The Brute. These are examples. This is say also a common type of the type of technique and plot of the naturalistic novels. Next is also important. We have the themes of these writers. Okay, the themes of these writers, what they meant to write about. We have Walcott identifies survival, determinism, violence, and taboo as key themes. Okay, these are the themes in the opinion of Walcott. Okay, survival, determinism, violence, and taboo. Two, the brute within. The brute within. It means that every person, every human being has something brutal inside himself. Okay, something animalistic that makes him let's say work, do things according to his instinct. Okay, so a brute within. Okay, each individual composed of strong and often warring emotions, fighting emotions that's inside. Each person has fighting, conflicting, okay, warring emotions, passions, such as lust, okay, including lust, greed, or the desire of dominate, or for dominance, or pleasure. Okay, that is true in every human being. Okay, these are things we are born with. Okay, everybody is born with these qualities, and the fight for survival in an amoral, okay, in not amoral amoral in not a moral indifferent universe. This survival in this immoral, not moral and indifferent universe. The universe is considered to be indifferent, not caring about human beings. The conflict in naturalistic novels is often, okay, هذا مر من قبل. The conflict in naturalistic novels is often what, man against man, man against himself, as character struggle to retain, to keep veneer of civilization, to keep the covering, the thin covering, okay, thin sheet, okay, of civilization, that we to cover what's inside, despite external pressures that threaten to release the brute within. 3. Nature as an indifferent force acting on the lives of human beings. Consider nature as being indifferent, not caring about people. It goes always against the human beings. The romantic vision of, as an example, the romantic vision of Wordsworth, that nature never did betray the heart that loved her, here becomes Stephenson Crane's view in The Open Boat. This tower was a giant standing with its back to the plight of the ants. It represented, in a degree, okay, to the correspondent, the serenity of nature amid of struggles of the individual. Nature in the wind and nature in the vision of men. She did not seem cruel, nature, cruel to them, okay, or to him then, nor beneficent, nor treacherous, nor wise, but she was indifferent, flatly indifferent. That's all about nature. Nature is indifferent to the human beings. Okay? 4. The forces of heredity and environment as they affect and afflict individual lives. Individual lives. Okay? The forces of heredity and environment. Okay? اللي هو ايش قلنا؟ اللي هو القوى اللي تمثل الموروثات والصفات الموروثة والenvironment of the human beings. They affect and they afflict both. They influence and they also sometimes hurt. They cause pains for the individual lives. 5. اللي هو an indifferent deterministic universe. Okay? This is also another theme to about indifferent and deterministic universe. Okay? Just things are all decided for you, okay, for us. Naturalistic texts often describe the futile attempts of human beings to exercise free will, often ironically presented in this universe that reveals free will as an illusion. Okay, and there is no free will. Okay, we are dealing with an indifferent, deterministic universe. So the universe that reveals free will as an illusion. It's just not something, it's not true. It's an illusion. It's imagination, illusion, wahm, being in free will. Last important 2 slides here, we have just list of names of famous representatives of naturalism. Here we talk about the most important. These 2 lists were much longer, but I summarized them and just listed the most important ones. Okay, and then we maybe later I'll talk more. I'll just let's say name or tell you about the most important ones to be remembered for the final exam. Okay, later on when we meet, inshallah, in our first live session. Here we have Theodore Dreiser, etc. You can read these by yourselves. And then we have the last slide and the next list of, you know, famous major representatives of naturalism. Okay, as you know, identified, you know, naturalists. Okay, that's all for today for this lecture, and hopefully see you soon in our next lecture. Until then, have a good time and good luck to all of you. Thank you very much. Assalamu alaikum.